This is David Bell, wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns. You're listening to the Best Bell Fantasy Football Podcast.
And welcome everyone to the Best Bell Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Bradley Sawler. This is episode 52, and we are here. We are live at the Fantasy Football Expo. I'm in the hotel room here at the Doubletree, drafting live. We've got one person left to fill in this underdog Best Ball Mania 3 live draft. So hop on in. You can use promo code FFF. Well, maybe for the next one, use promo code FFF, and that will match you 100% up to $100. Okay. Let's get it going. I've got the fourth spot here. Let me go to the draft board because that's more exciting. I think that's a more exciting format here. Let's stop the screen share and instead share this one. Chrome tab. Draft starts in about 30 seconds or so. And I'm excited to be doing the FF Expo yet again. Last year, it was a lot of fun. Met a lot of people. A good time had by all, and now I'm drafting live here at the Expo. Okay, let me pull up the big board here. Yeah, we'll get started here in a few seconds. Once again, Bradley Stalder. Follow me on Twitter at FFStalder. You see the lanyard. You find me. We'll be hanging out all weekend. Good time had by all. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So this is the first Best Ball Mania 3 live draft I've ever done. So with the fourth pick, I'm probably going to go wide receiver here. And it looks like I'm going to get one of Justin Jefferson or Cooper Kupp. That will allow me to get the Minnesota or Los Angeles Rams. I think getting Justin Jefferson at this spot is nice. He's moved into the wide receiver one. Not surprising. He's tearing up camp. Absolute dog. Can catch the ball really well. Runs all of his routes. And we expect Kirk Cousins to thrive under Kevin O'Connell. Fast-paced offense. We saw last 2 years the neutral game script for the Rams be significantly higher than what the Minnesota Vikings were. So you can expect that with the translation now, O'Connell becoming the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, wheels up for Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and 3 wide receivers set. KJ Osborne, who seems to be taking another leap as well. Osborne finishing in the top 40 of wide receivers in total points last year, had a few explosive games, and he's better than Van Jefferson. If you're making that parallel between the Rams and the Minnesota Vikings, I think he's a better player than Van Jefferson. Also, Van Jefferson, not the type of player that you want to be targeting right now, coming off of 2 knee surgeries this summer for the LA Rams. So I'm glad that I was able to take Justin Jefferson. It's also really easy to stack with Kirk Cousins. Cousins does not go early much. I don't have to reach for Cousins. There's no reason to. And I'm going to come back around here. And I'm interested in taking, if I can get a Barkley or a Swift here, that would be really nice. And heck, even at pick 21, it looks like Alvin Kamara is available, Leonard Fournette. But I do filling the wide receiver spots with T. Higgins, A.J. Brown, his top 5 weekly upside. Taking a step back, A.J. Brown, I've spoken time and again about how A.J. Brown is the wide receiver that I want to take shots on. Even in a conservative 52% pass rate type of team, A.J. Brown should be in your top 10, top 12, and he is 11, but he has the spike week potential. Last year, A.J. Brown's wide receiver 1 rate was 5th highest among all wide receivers, only behind Cooper Kupp, of course, Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel, and Tyreek Hill. So A.J. Brown is in that conversation, definitely in that. But yeah, I'm probably going to be able to get him on the comeback around. Okay. All right, cool. And Swift is still there. Aaron Jones is still there. Those are the profiles that I want, though, of my running backs. When I'm drafting my running backs, I want pass catching. I know it's half PPR, but I want a pass catching running back. And fading Mike Evans right now, I think, is the smart thing to do, given the injuries, I'm going to go DeAndre Swift. He's the profile. I did put out a tweet thread yesterday about how DeAndre Swift is one of my favorite under picks for rushing yards. He's at 850.5 on Prize Picks. And you can use the codes that I posted for previous running back Prize Picks videos that I had. I think it was episode 49. So he's one of my favorite unders because he's only met, so 850 yards is like 41 rushing yards per game approximately. And DeAndre Swift has only hit that mark about 30% of the time in his career. Jamal Williams has hit that rate 31% of the time in his career. Just for reference, like the bar is not set very high, but it's because he's not achieved that bar very highly. And Swift has struggled to stay healthy. He's missed 7 games over the last 2 seasons. And it's not due to the heavy workload. It's these soft tissue issues that he seems to be having. So I like getting Swift in the half PPR and full PPR, but he's an absolute fade for me in like standard leagues. And you shouldn't be depending upon him for the rushing. It's about the receiving work. And so he's one of my favorite unders at 850 rushing yards on the season. He can fail by not meeting those weekly stats. He can fail by injury. He can fail by being cycled out of the offense, giving breaths, etc. And I'm up, and I want another wide receiver at this spot. Michael Pittman looks really nice. Yeah, so let's go Michael Pittman. And now I've got Detroit, Minnesota, and Indy. And so those are going to be the bases of which I want to focus my stacks on later. So Detroit, Minnesota, Indy. And looking at week 17 schedules, I'm just going to pull those up because I don't have them memorized, but I do want, okay, later. So with Indianapolis, they face off against the New York Giants. So I'll include some Giants correlation. The Vikings, they take on the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau, 4:00 game. So it shouldn't be one of those like frigid cold nights, but like I had an episode, I think it was in the 20s, where Sam from FTN hopped on and we talked about week 17 games. And the concern was, of course, the weather, right? The weather in Lambeau affecting Justin Jefferson, but getting the Kirk Cousins stack is going to be nice. And also a sneaky upside play for Detroit is in Chicago comes to Detroit in the Dome at Ford Field. So getting the Bears, getting the Green Bay Packers, and the Indianapolis Colts, as I mentioned, take on the Giants. So that's going to be really nice. I'm going to look for some Wan'Dale Robinson. It's encouraging that Wan'Dale Robinson seems like he has locked down the slot receiver role, which we've seen be a weekly wide receiver 2, a high-end wide receiver 3, and getting those that like your last round, really nice, really nice. For instance, like Wan'Dale Robinson is going at pick 164 right now, the 14th round-ish. Yeah, you should be drafting some Wan'Dale, I almost said it. Rondale Moore? No, Wan'Dale Robinson. So that's what I'm going to be looking for in these drafts. Obviously, I want to keep value in mind. Any player that's drafted 12 spots after ADP is generally a standard deviation after their average, and especially in the mid rounds. So keeping that in mind, that you're competing against players. Obviously, drafting, it seems like a bell curve, and Hayden Winks has talked about how players' ADPs aren't just stuck at one number, that it looks like a bell curve. Some players are picked early, some players are picked late, and if that shifts, so does the entire bell curve. That some players will continue to reach no matter what. Some fantasy drafters. So if I'm taking value, if I'm thinking about value, I want players valued who extend outside of that 12, because I'm now at an advantage, a drafting advantage. For instance, right now I'm looking and I can't ignore that Josh Allen is here on the board and falling. How often is Josh Allen going to fall to 44 or even 45? So I am considering Josh Allen here in the middle of the 4th round. Even though I don't need the stack, I might be able to come back around and get some Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis would be falling. or I can target some of the later Buffalo pieces. That's what I'm keeping in mind here. The value, I can't ignore value in these drafts. It's unlikely in a lot of other drafts that Josh Allen is going to be that far removed from ADP. And I don't have a quarterback. I'll play the value game all day. And it's very possible that Gabriel Davis comes back around to me, okay, in a few spots. Now, maybe he won't, but that's the risk I'm willing to take. I've got 3 spots, and I don't think there's a reason why someone in this draft would need to take a Gabriel Davis, okay? But we'll see. Crazy things happen, and that's why we play this game. So Terry McLaurin goes off, and I'm thinking to myself, Gabe Davis probably stacking with Josh Allen. This is the right price for both of them, I think. 4th and 5th round. Gabriel Davis goes off, and there's a snipe, so it's okay. But looking at who could be available here, Buffalo in week 17, they take on Baltimore or Cincinnati, I should say. There's not really Cincinnati, anyone there. I'm down to 15 seconds. And I do where Michael Thomas is going. I still do. Okay. Yeah, as wide receiver 29 off the board. There's just the upside is I can't ignore it. And New Orleans faces Philadelphia week 17. So I've got some spread out value. I did a little bit for Michael Thomas, but I'm a believer. I'm a believer in Michael Thomas. I'm a believer that he's got the upside, wide receiver 1 upside. Last time we saw him operating at full capacity, he was the wide receiver 1. In fact, it was pretty clearly Michael Thomas, both consistently achieving those mid-tier wide receiver 1 weeks. So I've got some exposure spread out. I can go one of a few ways, but making sure I get stud wide receivers is clear. And I'm taking Michael Thomas over Rashad Bateman, as you saw, over Darnell Mooney, over Amon-Ra St. Brown. Those are some shifts that I'm implementing in my draft right now. I'm very happy with getting that. And of course, I'm fading tight end. That goes without saying. Now, maybe because this is an 18-round draft, I go with a 3 very late 3 tight end build. Just ignore tight end until the bitter end. But that's where we saw some differentiators. We saw differentiation between end of year plays is the pass-through rates for 3 tight end builds was very, very high. And I don't think that 4 tight end build is ideal with an 18. You're dedicating 4 spots to your tight end. That's probably not ideal. But I'll keep in mind if Dawson Knox falls a little bit, I'm into that. I'm not willing to reach a lot. And maybe this is just the value hound in me. Y'all can blame me for trying to take all the edges, but like 13, 14 spots on Allen, 5 spots on Swift, another spot on Jefferson. I did lose a little bit on Michael Thomas, but I think that 50 is the right spot. 5th round Michael Thomas is totally fine. And in fact, if you look at my Twitter feed when I was drafting Michael Thomas on Drafters Fantasy, my average draft position for him, my own personal ADP for him, was at the beginning of the 7th round. That's where I had been drafting him for a long time. And now, even in the middle of the 5th round, I'm fine taking Michael Thomas. He's been lighting up Saints camp. Nick Underhill has said that he looks the part. This is a player take that we're talking about and needs to be stronger at. It also allows me to take a late Jameis Winston. Okay, if I want to do that, a late Jameis Winston or a late Matt Ryan. And those are 2 of my favorite late round quarterbacks. So I can push quarterback. I don't need to take any of the values at these spots. Even if Kyler Murray or Jalen Hurts falls, the reality is I got an awesome deal on Josh Allen. I don't need to go deal hunting for the other quarterbacks because we know what Josh Allen is. And to get him more than a round after ADP, that's a win. That's a huge win. So I'm coming up here and I see Minnesota stack here with Adam Thielen. I'm going to go Thielen. I like getting Adam Thielen at this spot. Some people are like, well, he's a fade. He's old. He's decrepit. He's going to be the red zone end zone target. But I don't think that that's necessarily true. That that Adam Thielen is this 40%, 35% red zone type of wide receiver. No, instead, if you look at the stats, his red zone target share is about the same as his normal target share. It's just that he does convert. He's got the big hands. Okay, so another play that I'm looking at. So week 17, I mentioned New Orleans, and then I may do the comeback around for Devonta Smith for Philadelphia, but also the New York Giants take on, where are the Giants here? Why, I just lost them. The Colts. So either Kadarius Toney or Devonta Smith are who I'm looking at this spot. Load up on wide receivers. The reality is, I don't know. Devonta Smith might ball. It might be Kadarius Toney. Who knows? But I want someone from those spots. And 76, 77, 78, those are the right ADPs for the players. So yeah, that's those are the two players I'm targeting at this spot. I am taking them over DeAndre Hopkins. And I was talking with Billy Musio of a full-time fantasy, and he said, well, I want DeAndre Hopkins over, let's say, Chris Godwin or over a lot of other players. And I said, I'm concerned about DeAndre Hopkins because not only did he get injured last year, which was fine. Injuries aside, it was that even before his injury, we were seeing lower floors from, you know what, I'm going to take Kadarius Toney. Okay. We were seeing lower floors from DeAndre Hopkins. Not a fan of seeing him fall off. Plus, Marquise Brown steps in. And they expect Rondale Moore to take over the Christian Kirk role. AJ Green is still there. Zach Ertz is still there. I am concerned that the floor is lower for DeAndre Hopkins, given the presence of Marquise Brown, who commanded a 26% target share each of the last 2 seasons, Zach Ertz, who will command a 15 to 20% target share, AJ Green, a 12% target share, 14% target share. Rondale Moore will be in the 12 to 14% range as well. Plus, you can't be optimistic about James Conner getting an 8 to 10% target share too. There's only so many targets to go around, and if you're filling in the glass, like if you're filling in the jar with large stones, I'm not sure the DeAndre Hopkins stone is as big as it used to be, given his performance last year. And one of the strongest year-to-year correlations is target share. And in fact, a stronger correlation is not just average target share, but median target share. In my studies, in looking at last year from 2020 to 2021, the stronger correlation, so among qualified wide receivers, the target share, average target share was a 0.42 R squared. Compare that to median target share, which was 0.50. Okay. So that's about a 20% stronger correlation than from average target share to median target share. Okay. Devonta Smith is still not off the board. We've got halfway. There we go. He finally goes. And now we're in value mode because I could be taking some real values here. I'll let some things come to me, but I'm also willing to fill in some spots. So maybe because I'm picking at 93, 97 is Dallas Goedert. That would be a bit of a reach though. New Orleans, Chris Olave. That would be interesting if he comes along. Olave's going to play on the outside. Jarvis Landry's going to play in the slot. Olave plays on the outside. And Jameis Winston and Chris Olave, they're going to feast. So he's one of my targets right here. If I can get, looks like Olave just went off. So much for that. Just talking him up. Whoever's man long 2112 is watching and sniping me. It's okay. So looking at who else could be available, I'm not taking like a Miles Sanders and Antonio Gibson. I can't do it. I'm looking at ADPs. Kareem Hunt is a viable player at this spot. I think he's the type of upside running back that can't be ignored. In fact, if you look at full PPR running backs from last year, Kareem Hunt had a higher running back one rate than Kareem Hunt's going to be my pick here. And he could be a standalone piece. I don't need to do any correlation with him. I think that the dump offs to Kareem Hunt, we could see Nyheim Hines 2020 or 2019 with Jacoby Brissett. That could be a real value. This Browns offense is going to have to find a way to generate yards, and I'm concerned that it's not going to be effective without getting the ball to the likes of Kareem Hunt, without getting the ball to Nick Chubb, obviously handing off to Nick Chubb, but getting the ball to David Njoku, who's a dynamic athlete. Yeah. Okay. Cool beans. So we've got Buffalo. I've not been getting a lot of since Marquez Valdes-Scantling goes off. I'm thinking about Dallas Goedert. This would be a nice value for Goedert. It also fits in with my Philadelphia New Orleans correlation. I can come back around with Goedert here. And I don't have a tight end. I'm not willing to reach. If they're here, I want to take them. I don't want to go out of my way. I'm a big value play type of drafter. But Justin Jefferson, Michael Pittman, Adam Thielen, I'm an at ADP or after type of drafter because I think that's a forgotten edge. A lot of people like to, a lot of drafters like to reach, and rightly so. You want the players on your team that you want. But the issue with reaching is that if you reach enough, it's just going to be suboptimal because you're competing against so many players who are, if it's reaching versus ADP, you're competing against so many other players who are going to be drafting this player later and they're going to get an earlier value. There's a chance that they've hit on a better player earlier and still gotten the player that you like. So if you like a player, just draft them, but draft them at ADP. All right, another player that I could see falling is Tyler Boyd, and that correlates with the Josh Allen Buffalo comeback around. Okay. All right, excellent. Yeah, Hawkinson goes off the board. So far, my build right now is a 1-2-5-1 build. I have Josh Allen. I have DeAndre Swift, Kareem Hunt, Jefferson, Pittman, Thomas, Thielen, Tony, Dallas Goedert. Now it's time to fill in the gaps. And I've got Detroit, and there aren't going to be a lot of Chicago Bears that I'm interested in drafting at all, but maybe a Cole Kmet later. That would be an interesting bit. Kadarius Toney for the New York Giants faces off against the Colts, and that fits with Pittman and Thielen and Jefferson. Pittman fits off with Pittman. Okay. And then Green Bay later as well for the Vikings. I can keep that in mind. And then, as I mentioned, of course, Dallas Goedert, the Philadelphia Eagles take on the Saints in Philadelphia. So there's some correlation happening, even if it's a little behind the scenes. Happy to get the build, how I have it, and then we'll go from there. See if there are any other values as well that come about. All right, let me scroll the board down for y'all. Okay, good. Awesome, there we go. I am 5 picks away. And Dawson Knox is hanging out. I'm going to see if I get some value on Dawson Knox and stack with Josh Allen, willing to go bully tight end, soft bully. I don't know if that's a thing, but 2 middle round tight ends, one to correlate and one to stack. That would be nice, but there's no guarantee that I'll be able to get those types of players or get Knox a couple spots away. Yeah, 3 spots. I think it's possible. All right. So, yeah, as I mentioned, this is the first draft that I'm doing live for Best Ball Mania 3 on this channel. I had been doing some Superflex drafts and others on Underdog on the Fancy Data channel, but this is the first time I've been able to get out to Michigan. I'm here at the FF Expo. Check me out at FF Stalder on Twitter. You can also see me anywhere around the expos. Come and say hi. I want to talk with you. I'm an introvert, so it's what do I say to you? But please introduce yourself. Talk to me. Love talking fantasy football. Maybe we can get a beer. That would be awesome. Dawson Knox is available there. Let's go draft that correlation, baby. So good. It feels so good. Now, looking ahead, this is the time where I'm starting to think about looking ahead, is taking some running backs, and this is the time to take the running backs. You have to take the right running back. The Isaiah Spiller, the Darrell Hendersons of the world, those are like my smashes right now, and that's what I had been doing previously on Underdog, is looking at the correlation between Chargers and the Rams. Happy to want to be a part of that Week 17 Smash Fest, because it's possible that by that time Cam Akers or Austin Eckler have suffered an injury, and Henderson and Spiller. Henderson has filled in admirably as a running back 2 last year in Akers' absence in spurts. And then Isaiah Spiller has the profile. I don't think he has the talent and skill to meet Austin Eckler, but we saw Justin Jackson fill in the role last year for Austin Eckler. And boy, it smashed as a mid-weekly running back 1. So Isaiah Spiller is a player that fits the profile. He's got pass catching capability, over 1,000 yards rushing each of the last 2 seasons in college. So he had the production, he had the pass catching capability, and that's the type of running back that I want. I want the profiles of pass catchers, even in half PPR. And this fits with what I want. There's no correlation for Zach Ertz or Jalen Tolbert. And then, yes, I'm going to lean Isaiah Spiller. Just based on the ADPs. If it was Henderson, it would have been Henderson. But here we are. Isaiah Spiller, welcome to the team. Great. So here we are. If you like drafting, but you haven't been on Underdog Fantasy, make sure you use the promo code FFF. That will give you 100% first-time deposit match up to $100. And it supports me, it supports the Billy as well, because that's our old promo code, but we'll split it amongst ourselves. It helps support us. And so there we go. Yeah. Awesome. And your support allows us to go to things like the Fantasy Football Expo, right? The Expo. If we're not able to make it to the Fantasy Football Expo, you should come. There's still time. There's still tickets, I think. Come to Canton, Ohio. Fly out. Make it happen. And if it's really impossible for you to make it on Sunday, come next year. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of great people here. A lot of awesome people in the industry who want to support each other and build each other up, and who have some great products and great ways of thinking. So absolutely, you want to make your way to the expo. Say hi to me. I'll be doing some work for Fantasy Data this year, but you can check out my website, bestbellfantasy.com. Okay, follow me on Twitter at FFStalder. Cool. So right now my build is a 1-3-5-2 build. I'm probably going to be looking for wide receivers, and this is the spot where I'm looking to smash some wide receivers. I'll next draft at 141. And some of the targets in this range for me would be, if I decide not wide receiver, Kenneth Gain. Love Kenneth Gain. He was a player that I took in my FFWC video showdown draft. It was a best ball draft, but Kenneth Gainwell had production at Memphis, capable pass catcher. We saw him used in some goal line packages last year in a pass catching role. And if we see the ascension of the passing game for the Philadelphia Eagles, that could be really nice. Maybe they just pick him anyways as part of it. And I'm talking myself into it. So if Kenneth Gainwell is there in a few picks, I'm going to take Kenneth Gainwell. But if he gets sniped up, there aren't a lot of other running backs I'm looking in this tier that are very interesting. One of the wide receivers I'm interested in is DJ Chark. He would also fill in with my DeAndre Swift correlation, so that would be nice. I like DJ Chark. I think he's undervalued at this spot. Wide receiver 64 off the board. There's some spike there. He has shown spike weeks and has capable coach and Dan Campbell. If you haven't watched Hard Knocks, you should check it out. The players are willing to work their tails off for Dan Campbell. And then we've seen spike weeks from him. Last year he was injured, and the Urban Meyer it was a whole mess. So can't really hold too much against former Jaguars in 2021. Fresh, clean slate. That's why I have been drafting a lot of Trevor Lawrence on Drafters Fantasy in that site. But here on Underdog, this is my 17th Best Ball Mania submission, Best Ball Mania 3 submission. So far, I'm pretty happy with how things are turning out. You can use the promo code FFF if you like to do this. You like to do this draft as well. We're coming up here on the end of round 12, and Kenny Gain looks like did go off the board. So DJ Chark is going to be one of my targets at this spot. But if he gets sniped up, I think Alexander Madison, 11 picks after ADP, that's interesting to me, mostly because, as I mentioned, the 12 spots is a full standard deviation. You are probably picking this player after 84% of other drafts, which is pretty nice. I like taking those types of values, and at being at this spot, he could really step into a big role. And we've seen mid-pack running back one games from Alexander Madison. Okay. Moment of truth is coming up, and Gesicki goes off the board. Ooh, I don't like that pick. Okay. I've been out more on Gesicki. Alexander Madison is my pick. I can just hammer wide receiver because maybe DJ Chark comes back to me. Maybe, and Madison fits with my correlation of Jefferson and Thielen. Okay. And it looks like Cousins did go off the board, so I can target Matt Ryan later. That's okay to me. Yeah, it looks like Cousins went off the board. Yeah, a few rounds earlier than I would have even wanted. So it is what it is. We'll let it happen. Nothing to lose my mind over. But Justin Fields, Chicago, that's an interesting comeback around week 17 correlation. As I mentioned, Detroit Lions and the Bears. That could be, if we're picking off value, Justin Fields, 19 spots after ADP could be absolutely massive. So I'll take Justin Fields, I think. I'm talking myself into these value picks later that still correlate with or stack with what I want. So Justin Fields, and we're talking week 17. I've got two rushing quarterbacks. I think I'm all set at quarterback. There's no overlapping bye weeks, so I don't need any quarterback. I will need a tight end late, probably the last round tight end, because Dallas Goedert and Dawson Knox have the same bye week. But now I can focus on maybe one. So we've got 4 picks left, one running back, one tight end, and 2 more wide receivers. So it looks like my final build would look something like a 2-5-7-3 build. Okay. Which is fine. 2-5-7-3. Although maybe I don't need, I've got no overlapping bye weeks, and I'll just run the gamut with DeAndre Swift and either Kareem Hunt, Spiller, or Madison. So maybe I just go fragile RB and make sure I get an extra wide receiver, given that, I could go with some wide receiver depth. All right, we're looking at Romeo Doubs. Later, he's a Green Bay correlation, Wan'Dale Robinson. So Doubs. I don't have much Doubs. Wan'Dale Robinson. Okay, I'm adding those to my queue because, as you remember, the New York Giants take on the Indianapolis Colts. So there's a comeback. I also have the correlation between Robinson and Darius Toney. I'm going to draft some Wan'Dale Robinson. Okay, cool. Love getting Wan'Dale Robinson. In fact, I have Wan'Dale Robinson in 68% of my dynasty leagues. I'm in over 20 dynasty leagues, and he's in 68% of them. So I'll take it. There we go. News off of Sleeper. So Sleeper just pushed out a notification about the Las Vegas Raiders, and that is regarding their running back situation put out by NBC Sports Edge that just stated about Amir Abdullah. News that Amir Abdullah is going to take on the quote James White role. Okay, that's what he's been a camp revelation. I don't know how much I believe that, but that would really stink for Kenyon Drake because I have a little bit of Kenyon Drake sprinkled in at the end of drafts. Yeah, I would not be a fan of that. He caught 35 passes last year in 11 games, and in full PPR could be an interesting like running back 4. Meh. There's no upside to Amir Abdullah, but it is what it is. That's where we're at right now. Okay, cool. Thinking about some last round tight ends, Bellinger comes to mind for the New York Giants. He could be an interesting late round tight end. Bellinger right now is going as the tight end 33. Also looking at the Indianapolis Colts, but yeah, let's get some Jamison Crowder here. I know that's a little ahead of ADP, but I don't want to get handcuff. I don't want Van Jefferson. There we go. We're going to get some Jamison Crowder stacking with Josh Allen. So I meet the stack. I fill in a wide receiver spot. It's like the Jenga pieces or the Tetris pieces filling into place. That's pretty nice. Let me take off the brand here just so we can see the bottom of the board as we get there. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Appreciate you. You can use the promo code FFF for 100% deposit match up to $100. And that'll support me and Billy, of course. That was our former promo code at Underdog. That'll make their way to support us. Underdog Fantasy, lots of fun to draft on. Unfortunately, not in Michigan, so I haven't been able to do a lot of the drafts. But yeah, this is fun. It's getting back in the swing of things. I've been drafting on Drafters Fantasy to keep myself sharp in their $2.22 leagues. Those are full PPR. This Underdog Fantasy draft, for those who are unfamiliar, is half PPR. All right, as I said, probably go 2 more wide receivers and 1 tight end. I'll probably take Bellinger as my last round of tight end. Just going to make sure he's in the queue here. Okay, yeah, I don't know where Fuller is going to sign, but he's the next wide receiver in the player pool based on ADP. I'm not willing to take him though. Yeah, there we go. Sammy Watkins is here. I know some people love Watkins. Some people hate Watkins. Some people love to hate Watkins. But we're getting to the better end. I'm going to take, as I said, Bellinger as the last round pick and take a wide receiver that fits. And Curtis Samuel is interesting for Washington. David Bell is interesting for Cleveland. And we're just waiting on the clock here. All right, Raheem Mostert. Yeah, let's go with, Benjamin's been getting a lot of love. Maybe I do take Eno instead. All right, we'll take Eno, Benjamin, just in case, as a late round handcuff possibility. I'll come back around and get a wide receiver. And looking at who's available, just stacking wise, any Buffalo, Cincinnati, Chicago, Detroit, Green Bay, Minnesota. Randall Cobb is there. I don't know if Randall Cobb will make it to the end of the year, though. That's my concern, is that he does have the soft tissue issues, and especially if the Green Bay Packers are struggling with their wide receivers, they're going to have Randall Cobb start out the season. Yeah. Maybe some late round Doolin. Ashton Doolin's been getting a lot of hype in the preseason. Maybe he can take a step forward. And that would fit with my correlation with Michael Pittman. Because someone has to step up in this Indianapolis offense as a wide receiver, too. You lose T.Y. Hilton, you gain back Paris Campbell, you gain back, or you draft Alec Pierce, and now Ashton Doolin is getting a lot of love. Alec Pierce is crushing right now. Let's see. Where is Pierce? Did he get drafted already? Alec Pierce did get drafted already. Okay, great. Yeah, I think Curtis Samuel is one of my favorite late round picks. I have him at about 30% of my drafters fantasy leagues. He's just a stud, and he was hurt last year. Like, people love to hate on Curtis Samuel, but he's always had a 20% target rate every time he stepped on the field. And there are questions about whether Jahan Dotson is the real deal. Terry McLaurin is a verified absolute baller, but Curtis Samuel, just can't ignore Curtis Samuel. Okay. There we go. Yeah, let's go with Curtis Samuel. Love me some Curtis Samuel. And that fits with a little stretching the Kareem Hunt correlation. Okay, and the last pick of my draft is going to be Bellinger, because he has a bye week 9, and that will alleviate a little bit of Dallas Goedert, Dawson Knox. I don't want to take a 0 from that spot. Week 7, sorry. Is it worth it to not take a 0 to make sure I get a third tight end? Yeah, it's guaranteed points, right? Guaranteed something. And if he actually hits, who's going to be the tight end 1 for the New York Giants? I'll wait. Not Ricky Seals-Jones. It's going to be Daniel Bellinger. And I know he's a rookie. And there are concerns about whether rookie tight ends can produce. But there's opportunity here. We remember last year, Evan Ingram, still 15% target share. And it's not like they're going to give 0 targets to tight end. So Daniel Bellinger, load. Here we go. A 4th-round pick, San Diego State. His player profiler comp is Foster Moreau, who we have seen spike in when given the opportunity. So I don't hate that comp at all. Not a prolific pass catcher. His highest target share, seasonal target share, was 15.8% in San Diego State in 2020. So it certainly can grow as a pass catcher. But if I'm taking a shot, give me Bellinger instead of Ricky Seals-Jones. He seems like he's playing ahead of Seals-Jones in the offseason. I'm also going to just check and see if there are any other values. Ooh, Brevin Jordan. How can I pass up Brevin Jordan? That's going to be so hard to pass up. Jordan, he's one of my most drafted tight ends on Drafters Fantasy, but Jordan goes off there. Yeah, Bellinger is my pick for the spot. I also like Tyler Conklin. Conklin, the New York Jets tight end. But Bellinger will finish my draft, and there we go. Okay. Cool beans. I'm happy with how the draft turned out. I went with a 2-5-8-3 build. Just didn't want to take the 0 for week 7 bye week with Philly and Buffalo. My quarterback, Josh Allen, Justin Fields. Obviously, if I go Josh Allen, you just need one other quarterback and make sure that the buys aren't overlapping. DeAndre Swift, Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Spiller, Alexander Madison, Eno Benjamin, all pass-catching capable. Madison, mid-running back 1 when Dalvin Cook is out. They don't have overlapping bye weeks. And I got values on DeAndre Swift in particular, and also Alexander Madison for ADP. Okay, cool. So that was my 17th draft for the Best Ball Mania 3. I'm going to look at my exposures just really quickly. Yeah, let me see if I can refresh those, and then we can get into. I'll talk about my exposures so far. I have 17 teams on Best Ball Mania 3, and my top drafted wide receiver, or let's top drafted quarterbacks, not surprisingly, Kirk Cousins, Kyler Murray, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson. Okay, so those are my top four, all 17% or higher. Darrell Henderson, Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, Alexander Madison, Travis Etienne are all over 20% drafted here on Underdog Fantasy. And then my wide receivers, Michael Thomas, Marquise Brown, Mike Williams, Jalen Waddle. I keep going to the Crowder. Please make me stop. Brandon Cooks and Christian Watson are all there. Most of my Watson shares happened before preseason, or before the preseason games. Top drafted tight ends right now, Njoku and Travis Kelce. And then after that, Gesicki. Unfortunately, I drafted 3 shares of Gronk in 17. So that, and Logan Thomas late. Okay. Yeah. Cool beans. All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. This has been a lot of fun getting back in the swing of things. You can find me around the Expo. Follow me on Twitter at FFStalder. Everyone's gonna be wearing the yellow, but I've got my backwards white Boston Marathon hat on. Bradley Stalder Fantasy Data. You can see right here at FFStalder. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks everybody. Appreciate you tuning in, jumping in. And in the meantime, good luck in the best ball streets, everybody.